David in Halifax.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. It's Russell and Dawn, right?
That's right.
Cool. So yeah, I was calling in to ask a question about your opinion on faith healing and sort of the kind of like placebo effect or the relation to something like hypnosis that kind of seems to go on.
The placebo effect is real. Faith healing is not.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you guys, are you skeptical of like something like hypnotism, or do you think that that's just a different category of placebo?
I mean, I'm not an expert on this thing, but I'm pretty sure that there is not that. I mean, like, people can be hypnotized to the extent that they can be persuaded to do something that they wouldn't normally do, but they kind of have to be willing. And I think that the media has kind of hyped up hypnosis as something with incredible powers that it doesn't really have. So it depends on what you mean.
Well, I mean, like as somebody who does hypnosis sometimes,
Okay.
I would agree with you that the media hypes it up to do things that it doesn't do. I would consider it sort of an honest placebo in the sense that it's guiding someone's beliefs.
Okay, like what kind of thing would you expect to be able to make people do with hypnosis, or what's your purpose?
Well, I mean, I started out doing magic and mentalism.
Oh, okay.
Years ago,
So it's you know, showmanship.
a lot of the time, although I mean, I've also since then worked with people on things like working on phobias or things of that nature, and seen really good results for people getting over problems.
Yeah, I mean, I would be really wary. I mean, if you were to make a claim like that to me in the process of advertising your services, I would have to treat that claim like I would treat any other form of alternative medicine, which is there's a lot of, like, when you're sick, you tend to get better over time with or without treatment. And so there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of claims that alternative medicines make when they don't have to submit to the to scientific testing that they can get away with because nobody is really holding them accountable for claiming credit for things that they didn't really do. So
No, I agree.
yeah.
And there's a lot of like missing checks and balances in most of those fields, particularly new agey stuff.
Yeah,
that,
I would say
you know,
that if you're gonna do the, I don't know, are you doing this for money?
No, not typically. I
Okay.
mostly used to do this years ago.
I would super recommend that you read some books on psychology more than focus on the hypnosis stuff. That's just me.
I have read lots.
Okay.
But it's an interesting topic. Like, are you familiar with Darren Brown?
Yeah, a little bit. Matt would be way more. He's a lot more interested in particular magicians.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be in today, actually. But
Oh well.
It was a last-minute switch.
Yeah, he's not feeling well.
Okay. Yeah, no, Darren's actually done a few specials specifically on faith healing and belief and stuff like that. One was called Miracles for Sale, I think.
Right.
And it was a really kind of good view of how persuadable people are and how some of the simpler tricks people seem to fall for again and again,
sure.
and then kind of attribute it to religion.
Right.
So, like, what would you say is something that would be a good approach to dealing with things that do that? Like, I mean, there doesn't seem to be any laws in the U.S. that I know of that like really prevents people from making these claims and like taking advantage of people and taking their money. And I know in some places, like for fake mediumship, you can be arrested. You know.
Yeah, no, I mean, there aren't really. You can, like, the only thing you can really do is appeal to people on an individual basis to be skeptical and not fall for stuff. And, I mean, that may not be terribly large scale, but every little bit helps. I don't know. Don, what do you?
Yeah, I mean, you could you know, lobby with your elected representatives, you know, and see what you can do there. Try for getting more strict standards and such. Here in the U.S., I don't know. The Congress is so gridlocked. Nothing like that is probably going to happen in the near future. But maybe in Canada, there.
Yeah, it's a fact of life that people fall for stuff. And there's a lot of stuff out there to fall for. And we're here on TV to talk about religion all the time because that is one particular cause that we are interested in getting people to be more skeptical about as a way of improving the overall skepticism and quality of our society.
Yeah.
Obviously, if we had a way to shut down people for lying about their religion, we would be pursuing something like that. But we don't, and so we're just some people talking about an unpopular topic on a TV show, which is basically the same kind of thing you're trying to do with huckster claims of other kinds.
And
Like,
there's a
do
lot of
you,
cross-fertilization between atheism and skepticism and you know, going after quack medicine and these sorts of things. And
do you think, though, that, like, I know that the U.S. has sort of like a separation of church and state built into the law.
that's the
Do you
theory
think
anyway.
that's something that they would be able to, like, outlaw and say, like, hey, you can't make these claims that you're doing these things?
I don't
Or does
think...
that sort of, like, fall under the freedom of speech?
Yeah, it would be hard to get a law like that passed. And I'm not even sure that it necessarily should be passed if it was unless it was very carefully worded. Like a couple of weeks ago, a guy called in and he was talking about trying to get laws passed that would prevent parents from indoctrinating their children with religion. And I was really skeptical of that being a good idea because the thing you have to realize is that if you allow people to make laws to prevent certain ideologies from being propagated, the first people that's going to be turned on is atheists. So unless you're really careful, you don't necessarily want your lawmakers making a judgment call about something really subjective. Because they're not going to be as skeptical as you are.
Or meddling too much. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
True that. All right, yeah, that's just what I wanted to ask you about. I'm sure that, like you said, Matt probably has more background on those topics, but it was interesting hearing your perspective.
Yeah. Well, thanks for calling.
Yeah, you can try back again later.
Yeah, I may do that.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
If you're just tuning in, or if you tuned in after the initial announcements, I thought I'd repeat the fact that there may or may not be a show next week. It's not going to be on Channel Austin. It will, if it airs, be on Ustream. It will not be the usual call-in number, so you should watch the show for the number and/or keep an eye on the blog and the Atheist Community of Austin's Facebook page. And if there is dinner next week, then it probably won't be at El Arroyo. So stay tuned for updates. Who have we got next?